welcome to Title the Podcast.
With Joe.
And Joe!
Ayan, welcome back!
Episode 6!
6 na, ang bilis.
Yeah.
That's about a month's worth of podcast.
Yes.
We've been talking for a month. Pero today may something special bilang milestone ng 6. Hindi ko alam ba siya milestone, pero milestone siya.
Oh, really? Ano meron?
Meron tayong guest. Pigil na pigil yung pagtawa niya, oh. Introduce natin siya para makatawa siya ng maayos. If you remember, on one of our episodes, when we talked about music musings, we mentioned one of the artists that we've been listening to, that I've been listening to, and it's a dear friend, and we have her with us today.
Yes!
So everybody, we want to welcome Andrea!
Hi everyone!
Ayan! Oh, welcome.
Thank you. I thank you for being here. Oh, wait, kayo pala.
Thank me for being here.
We thank you!
Now
Thanks
you
for
guys
having me.
understand ba't kami friends.
Thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you here.
Yes, and
Ayan na.
I was gonna say, this is my first ever podcast, so I don't really know what to expect.
Kami din.
And believe me, this will be your last.
I hope not. It's been fun so far. I've listened to a couple of your episodes and sobrang saya.
A couple lang. Ba't hindi lahat?
Yung mga episodes lang na binigay mo sa akin at yun lang.
Kasalanan ko.
Medyo lang.
We have a whole playlist.
Huwag naman natin terrorize si Andrea para bumalik siya.
But thank you, Andrea. We're glad that you're here with us today.
Yes, and if you remember from our intro, we said we wanted to bring in people and then we wanted to talk to them, get their perspective, make the conversations richer. So, Andrea, ano bang gusto mong pag-usapan today?
Ako talaga?
Oo, topic
Bakit?
mo. Surprise mo kami. Kunyari hindi kami nag-prepare.
Nakakatawa kasi the other day, kausap ko si Ivan through WhatsApp and nag-iisip lang kami ng mga topics for sa title the podcast nyo. At ang naisip ko ay wala doon sa
mga nilista mo. So, napaka-relevant ng kwento.
Sobra!
We like it to be a surprise.
Actually, naisip lang namin to ni Joe literally 20 minutes ago.
Ganun talaga,
Yeah,
pag smart ka.
Smart, spontaneous. Pero kasi,
I love it.
I figured, itong topic na to, wow, I'm having a hard time with, Taglish. It's okay!
Andrea, our audiences are bilingual. We can totally switch to English.
Bilingual, BY.
Bye!
Bye!
And that's the end of our podcast. Thank you for tuning in.
I was just saying, kasi yung topic na na-mention namin at Joe, parang wala lang. We'll talk about singleness. Singlehood.
Single.
Hi! All the single ladies and gents. Like all of us here. Like all of us here right now.
No, I mean, wala naman akong
Agenda.
reason kung bakit yun, pero na-mention lang and I thought it's a very interesting and relevant topic.
Ooh. Relevant kanino?
I think to all of us. Because all of us are single. And
Denial is a river.
and some of our listeners are single.
Tama!
Some.
Because I know 2 of our listeners are married so.
Shout out sa mga married dyan.
Shout out peeps.
So, ito yung nilagay ko sa notes ko. Wala naman ako masyadong notes. As you can
Hindi
see.
naman siya ganong prepared, no?
I figured we could start the
Conversation.
with perceptions we don't like about singleness.
Huh?
Ayun.
Joe, what
Ano,
don't
Joe?
you like about being single?
What don't I like about being... Well, ang tanong niya, anong sa perceptions, hindi sa experiences natin.
Okay, so
Sige, you can
Sa
start the
perceptions
horn.
naman. As somebody who grew up Christian and is still going to church, one of the things that really, really grinds my gears is when church communities talk about singlehood as a phase in time. Na parang, you start as a child, you're a baby, tas bata, tas lalaki. Tapos, habang lumalaki ka, single ka muna. Pag na-settle ka na sa, usually in the Filipino-Asian culture, It's usually, pag settled na finances mo, pag may career ka na, pag may diploma ka na, pag may degree ka na, then ang next stage nun, marriage. And then after marriage, kids, tapos you get a house and all these different things. And then it's always framed as though you're not quite fully there yet pag single ka pa. That's one of the biggest...
So it's like laid out na.
Oo, parang stepwise process siya na hindi ka pwedeng matenga doon. Para siyang, di ba, you know, elementary, middle school, high school, university, hindi ka pwedeng ma-stuck lang sa isa. Pag na-stuck ka, ikaw yung problem.
Huh?
Ayun ang perception generally in Christian circles.
Ano siya ng tenga?
Natenga. Explain, Joe.
Natenga, it means stuck.
Okay.
Stuck.
Yeah, so when you get stuck in that, and that's one of the perceptions of singlehood and singleness that really bothers me, especially coming from the church. And then there's a lot of well-meaning, you know, titos and titas. Like, yung anak ni ganito, single din daw yung ganito, ganyan. Pakialam ko po.
I hate that. I hate that yung getting matched up with somebody.
Nirereto ka.
Oh my gosh, can you please? I have my own taste.
And clearly it's not the same as yours. I've seen Tito.
Not my type.
Thank you, next.
No, nakakasa rin ganun kasi parang they're trying to force somebody na, uy, ito yung okay to, maganda yung family nito, maganda ang work nito, ganito, ganyan. But like, is that really how you parang i-standardize mo yung to meet somebody na standard mo yan but that's not what I want or that's not what I'm looking for.
Tama.
Diba?
Tapos pag humindi ka, ikaw pa may issue. Ang taas kasi ng standard mo, kala mo naman sino gumawa ka.
Talaga? Ang taas ng standard mo.
Masyado marami
Well,
tayo
at least I have some standards.
True.
Sino ba tong mga tito-tita na to? Mamaya, pagpatay na yung mic.
Yung mga guilting tito-tita dyan. Ang tamaan guilty.
Sa akin naman, ang perception na ayaw ko about singleness is other people believe na I'm missing out. Na because wala akong significant other, na miserable ako or malungkot ako. And from experience may isa akong friend na-demote ko sa pagiging friend.
Walang second chances.
Walang second chances!
Cheers to that!
Na nag-devote sa pagiging friend ko kasi parang sinabi niya sa akin na kasi ang context is, yun nga, nasa relationship siya at sobrang masaya ako para sa kanya. Pero yung line na sinabi niya sa akin na, Andrea, sana may ganito ka rin. So,
May attitude.
Wow, excuse me.
Guys, sana nakita yung mata ni Andrea at yung leeg niya.
Pero naman, kasi sinabi niya yun in a way na I think at that time, ang well-intentioned naman yun na sinabi niya na kasi masaya siya and ako ay masaya sa kanya. Pero ako, in a way, nasaktan ako kasi parang, anong sinasabi mo na just
I'm
because,
miserable.
just because na wala akong jowa na hindi naman sorry, hindi naman gwapo, let's just put it out there.
I'm not dating a loser. How about that?
Hindi naman gwapo. Bakit mo sasabihin na ako ay, yun nga, parang bakit mo i-imply na hindi ako masaya kasi wala akong isang significant other. So yun. Yun ang experience ko.
Kaya siya na-demo.
Kaya na-demote yung friend na yun.
Acquaintance na lang siya ngayon.
But,
Hindi, pag ganun, who you?
Wow!
Who you agad?
Pag surprise kayo, ba't ganun ang reaction ni Joe? Listen to the episode about second chance. Shameless plug. Bitterness episode pala ito.
I love it.
Not really.
Ano lang, because we're talking about perceptions that we don't like.
Yes.
Right? And usually, the reason we don't like them is because they trigger a certain emotion.
Tama.
So, Joe, ikaw naman, anong perception about singlehood or singleness ang ayaw mo?
Ayoko mag-single.
Hindi ako prepared. Wala sa second.
So, yung perception na ayaw mo, yung perception na pagiging single ayaw mo.
Ayaw niya ng buong thing.
Let's go.
Actually, it doesn't really bother me or whatever. Kasi for me, yung being single, it's the time of your life where you explore or find out who you really are.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the phase of your life na malalaman mo na, oh, this is the direction I want to go, or this is what I want to do in life. Doon mo talaga parang may establish kung sino ka talaga.
Yeah.
Part of that is yung adulting.
Yes.
Diba?
And also kanina, di ba, pinag-usapan natin during our brunch. Thank you for the brunch, Joe! It was a
Thanks,
lovely,
Joe.
lovely brunch. Yun nga minention ko na pag ikaw ay naging married, tapos let's just say, generalize to na you get married in your 20s and your 30s, tapos life expectancy mo until you're 80. So technically, kasama mo yung partner mo for like 40, 50 years. So ibig sabihin, you are tied to a partnership longer than you are single. So,
Ay, totoo.
di ba?
Repeat that again. You are tied to...
You are tied to a partnership more than you are as a single person.
Oh, that's true.
Kaya nga, di ba, for the rest of your life?
Till death do us part.
I mean, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But just think about it for a second. You are someone's partner more than you are as your own self. Or like as your own partner.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
So now it got me thinking, okay, what is it about that I don't like about being single? Is it because I'm alone? Or is it because parang, alam mo yung society has just kind of hammered down on you na you need to be in a relationship or some form of partnership to gain that form of happiness. Or like to be...
Or what society accepts.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, ang deep naman ito.
Wala na, tapos na guys. Hindi ko na kaya.
Pero, I don't know, are there any other perceptions ba na you don't like about singleness? Yun na yun. We can move on to the next one.
No, I think it's parang one of the things, I think I mentioned this briefly a while ago, but I wanted to emphasize yung perception na if you're single, there must be something wrong with you. Na, oh, you're undesirable, that's why no one's,
Yes.
Hindi
No
mo
one
pwedeng
wants
choice
to.
ko lang na maging single.
O kahit choice mo, ang sabi naman nila, ay, ang masyadong mataas ang standards mo, or masyadong
Ay,
kang
anong
picky,
pakialam mo?
Tama.
or hindi ka marunong pumili. It's like, it's your fault for
Eh
not
kung
knowing
ayoko
how to choose.
mamili.
Oh, wala na, tapos na nga patayan na.
Actually, okay, hold that thought, ate, kasi meron pang second segment dun sa...
Siya talaga ang host ngayon.
Okay. We are being interviewed.
Okay po, ma'am. Ano na?
So yun na
Ano
yung
pong next question, ma'am?
No, actually, ito namang second portion is perceptions that you like about singleness. I think Ate Joe has pointed out a lot of things that are beneficial about singlehood, right?
Yeah.
Like my pa-ambulance. Actually, I don't know if they pick it up. Anyways. Perceptions about singlehood that we like. Like what you're talking about, Joe, kanina, yung freedom.
I like the freedom of it all. I like the peace of mind. I like just being able to spend time with yourself.
Yes.
Like what I said earlier.
Yes.
Na it's not spending time alone. It's spending time with yourself. You enjoy the company of your own. Na you'll never ever get to do that again, or not as much once you're in a relationship, whether it's with a boyfriend or girlfriend or marriage, because yung dynamics nun will be different.
Exactly.
Because now you have to consider the other person. Diba? Yung time nila, attention, and all those things. So, for me, I like being single. I enjoy being single. I like to be responsible on my own. Kasi you're getting forced to learn things on your own too.
Mm-hmm.
Di ba? You
Being independent,
yeah, yung independence doon na before parang oh no, I have my mom to do that for me, or I have my dad to help me, blah blah blah, blah. But now it's like if like me, I live on my own, parang okay, so this is how it is. Parang it opens up a whole new world for you.
Mm-hmm.
So marami ka ng, oh, this is what I want now to do, this is what I enjoy doing.
Right. You talked about a whole new world. A whole new.
Sabi siya yung musical episode po ito.
And I want to carry on that kasi for me, that's what I like about singleness, yung freedom, but also because when you are single, I feel like you are more open to meeting other people, which is kind of interesting. And I noticed this because I've done a number of solo travel,
Yeah.
and obviously it really forces you to meet with other people, and sometimes you'll never know who you're gonna meet. But I figured, and again, it's not me vilifying people who are pag nagta-travel kayo, na may kasama kayo, pero kasi pag may kasama ka, parang yun lang yung mundo mo when you're traveling or when you're going about your day, right? Pero when you're on your own, it forces you to come out of your comfort zone, and it forces you to talk to other people that you might not talk to or talk with. And that's what I like about, like, not singleness per se, but like being on your own, but singleness and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone really puts you in a place to be open to the world.
Ito, and I think kind of tying those two things together, the freedom and the openness. I think Joe, you touched on this a little bit na pag may partner ka kasi, you have to consider them, their schedules, their emotions,
Yeah.
their perceptions, and then a word, their perceptions, their well-being. Diba? Like, you know, like for example, for today, because the three of us are single, it wasn't that difficult to find time to record. If either of us, if any of us had significant others, it would have been like, wait, let me just check with so and so. Let me just confirm kung may plano kami today. Or let me just confirm kung aalis sila ng bahay and maybe we can use our room for recording, or you know, just little things like that that you don't really consider. And they're not, I'm sure our listeners and even our friends who are married and who are happily in relationships, I don't think they consider these as like nuances. As nuisance. I don't think they consider these as nuisance.
Yeah.
But it's the reality of all these small things adding up na the openness that you're able to manage on your own, the freedom that you're able to kind of control just as your own person is very different when you've committed yourself to being with somebody else.
Yeah.
Wow.
Uwi na?
Wise. No, but those are all facts, Joe.
Well, bakit parang di ka masaya? May pinapalabas ka ba? Hindi, joke lang.
Natuwa lang ako sa monologue mo.
Monologue. No, but it's true. I think I like, Andrea, that you're asking us about not just the bad perceptions, but the good perceptions. I think maybe, ako personally, siyempre di ko na kayo dadamay. ako personally, when I think of perceptions with singlehood, I keep, you know, as somebody who's single, parang I'm not happy with the negative perceptions of it. But then I realized I've never actually thought of, deliberately thought of the positive perceptions of it. And then parang, I'm part of the problem pala, because like I don't talk positively about it. Then I'm not adding to the conversation that could potentially shift the perspective into something more positive about singlehood.
And also to clarify, this is not like toxic positivity na, I'm really happy to be single. It's more of like the self-awareness
Yes.
na yung sinabi mo kaninang phase. Yeah, it could be a phase in our life right now, but like embrace it in such a way that be aware na what is it about in this moment of my life that is good, right? Rather than like, ayaw maging single, or ayokong, I don't like this feeling na lahat, everybody has their own little partners and all that. Pero like, instead, think about, oh, yun nga, we can do this podcast at whatever time we want, di ba? Pwede tayo mag-brunch, pwede tayong maglakwatsa. Like, Joe and I went to a leather place a couple weeks ago. So, parang mga...
We didn't have to consider anyone else.
We didn't have to consider anyone else.
It's so easy to
It's
plan.
so easy,
Yes.
yeah. And I'm sure for our listeners and for our friends and peers na are in a relationship or in a committed relationship, they may be listening to this and say, oh man, I wish I could be in a podcast right now.
I mean, you can. Plug lang namin mga socials. Just, reach out to us.
I wish I could be going to brunch with my friends right now. So, the grass is not really greener on the other side. In fact, ikaw na nagsabi sa akin yung Joe, di ba? Nasabi mo na, ikaw ba yun? Or baka different Joe?
Daming Joe sa buhay.
Yung parang sinabi mo na, make sure to water your own grass.
I can't even water my own plant.
No, but you're right, and this reminds me of a conversation we've had recently. Na parang, it's an awareness of where you are.
Yes.
It's it's recognizing where you are. You're right, whether it's a phase, whether it's a permanent thing, whether it's something that you're choosing or was chosen for you. It's being present in that moment to then be able to appreciate it for what it is. I'm not saying everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows and you're going to be, riding a unicorn across a poppy field or whatever. Right? Like, it's recognizing the good and the bad in your present moment. Because I like what you pointed out na, you're constantly, if we're talking about singleness, tapos if you're constantly in the focus na, I want somebody, I want to be in a relationship, I want a family, I want this. Parang, the more you do that, all the years that you're spending in your singleness or in your singlehood, hindi mo na na-enjoy. Kasi the whole time you're focused on what's next, as opposed to being like, okay, I have my goals. We're not saying it's wrong to want somebody or it's wrong to think about I want a life that's different from what you're living now.
Right.
But there's a balance that you can strike for like I'm setting goals, I'm setting aspirations, I'm setting intentions, whatever you want to call them. But then also being able to recognize where you are and appreciating what you currently have.
Yes.
And being single, that's the best time you work on yourself.
Yes, kasi walang ibang asungot.
Plus, just to add on what you're saying, it's like, yung mga perception na, oh, I really wanted to do this. I have to be married at this time of my life, like, at this age, blah, blah, blah. And then, some of them end up with the wrong person.
Right.
Just because they are wanting to meet that goal for themselves that they set up. Na parang, oh, I have to be married at 30. So whoever comes na lang at that age, at 30, I'll end up with this person forever and ever and ever.
Na yun, siya ng dawan.
Yeah.
Nag-settle tuloy sila.
Yeah, and so, sometimes, yung mga ganun, it ends up being a failed relationship, diba?
Tama.
So, it's not really about any other person or having that relationship. It's about you. If you're very confident now with yourself, if you work on yourself na parang, oh, I'm gonna do better for any aspect of my life. Everything else follows. It's very like smooth sailing afterwards.
Right.
And
I also want to add na when you're working on yourself, the right person will see that work.
Yes.
Right? Kasi, naiyak ka ba?
Nasaan ka ba?
Ano ba? Kulang ba yung bukas na bintana? Hindi lang tayo nakikita. Hello!
But what I mean is, kasi parang when we say things like, oh, I'm working on myself because there's something wrong with me. No. It's
to improve myself.
It's to improve myself. And the right person will see that. It might mean having to wait a little. It might mean...
Been waiting 20 years.
Just a little more.
Magbibilangan na ba tayo ng years?
It might mean having to have your heart broken. Or it might mean...
How many times?
Yaka na!
It might mean that way. Pero the right person will see that.
Yeah, I think the person that can see that will be more appreciative of what you have become.
Yes.
Afterwards. or like, it will just radiate from you.
Yeah.
Totoo, kasi the flip side of that, which is something I've been thinking of also, na no one wants to be with anyone that's desperate. And if you're on the other side of like I personally for me, I feel like the opposite of working on yourself and just radiating, that self improvement or that love for yourself. The opposite of that is that parang yung desperation of like, oh, I'm incomplete. I want somebody. I want somebody. I want somebody. You'll attract the wrong kind of people that way. Because
That's true.
you'll either attract people that would take advantage of you because they know na, ay, sobrang lonely nito. Sige,
Very
paglaruan
vulnerable.
natin. Or you could attract or you might not attract the right people because the right people who are self-assured and who are happy in who they are and who want a life partner that's their equal will not see you as an equal. Kasi you're like, ay, bakit anong feeling mo kulang sa'yo? Baka may kulang nga talaga.
Kailangan pa kitang i-fix? Pwede ba?
Ang naisip ko dyan, yung parang, this is my cup analogy, di ba? When you meet someone, dapat yung cup mo, puno na. Hindi half empty or basag sa...
Ay, basag.
Basag. Or yung pag nilalagyan mo siya ng tubig or whatever, it just goes through. Right? When you meet the right person, it needs to also be a full cup. Or maybe 3/4.
I'm willing to settle for 3/4.
May mga negotiables, non-negotiables naman.
Yung tubig is unnegotiable.
Pero what I mean is, like, you're not going into a relationship that you haven't done the work. Right?
Yeah.
Or even if you're not fully, I don't think we fully self-actualize per se, but it's more of, in the case of the cup analogy, it's like, hey, this is the work that I've done on myself. You better not, whoever that person's coming into my life, they better not be like half empty or like basag sa underneath. That they're just literally sucking like your life away from you.
Totoo. I like what you just said kanina actually, Joe. Parang to add to what Andrea is saying. Sabi mo kanina, ano ba? I'm not gonna come in to fix you.
Yeah.
Which is true, diba? Na para if like because we're all single, we're all thinking about our future partners. When we think about our future partners, we never, at least for me, parang you don't think of somebody that you want to fix.
Yeah.
Hindi ko na nga maayos sarili ko. Ikaw pa.
It's very exhausting. Yes, it's very unfair for
Yes.
the person who's trying to fix the other one.
Yes.
It's very unfair. Parang, no. Diba? Parang, I'm gonna give you 100% and you can't even give me half. Parang, that's unfair for me.
Diba yung cup, you're pouring to that person and that person's not giving back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think, but to balance it out, we're not even saying now we're perfect and we're looking for somebody perfect. But I think you want to find somebody who's
Close to perfect.
close to perfect.
3/4.
Mga 97%.
97%. Willing to...
Yeah, we're willing to negotiate. No, but I'm saying you... Di ba na you want somebody who's able to work on the same goals for you. Like I was talking to a friend recently na we were talking finances. And siya tsaka yung kapatid niya have very different viewpoints on finances. Yung friend ko was able to save quite a bit. Okay din yung job niya. So financially very stable siya. He has a good nest egg and all these different things. Yung kapatid naman niya, medyo nagka-issue ngayon sa utang with credit cards and stuff. Tapos parang tinanong siya ng kapatid niya, sabi niya, how do you get, because nakikita ko you have the stuff you want, you get to go out with your friends. How do you balance all of that with just, whatever you're earning? Sabi niya, exactly, it's the balance of knowing, if I eat out with this person, I spend this much, I'm not gonna buy the jacket that I want. Or if I buy a jacket, I know that I won't be able to
It's
go
a
out.
compromise.
Yeah, it's a compromise. And then that conversation kind of reminded me, these two brothers are very different in terms of where they are financially. So if you're thinking as a partner to one of them, you'd want somebody na ka-level mo so that you can then build on something. Because parang kanyari, kung ikaw, financially stable ka na, tapos yung future partner mo, ang dami palang utang, hindi pala marunong mag-fix. Like, you had a vision of like, oh, if when we get married, we want to get a house, build a family, or whatever that vision for you is. And then you realize, ay wait, hindi pa pala siya ready kasi wala pa pala siya dun sa stage na yun. And that could happen not just with finances, it could be with emotional maturity. It could be where they are with their families. It could be where they are in their careers or in school or whatever, diba na? You want somebody relatively within the same kind of, I guess, level is the best way to use it without being able to think of other terms. Para yung feeling na you're helping each other improve. You're not there as a caretaker. You're not there to replace their mom, their dads, their siblings. You're there to be a partner to them na equals kayo.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Oh my God!
That was close.
Sorry guys, muntik lang matapon yung ininom ko. Ah.
You guys mentioned from your previous episode, I think it was Second Chances. I think it was Ate Joe who said, when the wrong person.
The right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing.
There you go.
Mm.
I think it's very much applicable to what we just talked about.
Yeah. It's applicable to a lot of things.
Yes.
And yes, kasi nga diba, you don't force something to happen just because you wanted it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You have to wait for the right time. Because even if you think that's the right thing at that time,
but it's the wrong thing.
But in reality, it's really
wrong.
not. It's really not the right thing to do. It will still end up the wrong thing.
Right.
Ang gulo, no? Pero nag-gets nyo na yun.
Pero nag-gets ko. I think parang nag-nod pa nga ako yung narinig ko yun from your episode. Yes.
Preach.
Preach.
The right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing.
Meron kasunod yun. Actually, meron akong dinagtong doon.
Ay,
Go,
ano
go,
dinugtong
go.
niya?
But the right thing at the right time is a blessing.
Woo!
Ay! Amen ulit! Amen! Amen!
But really, di ba?
Yes.
Sometimes you fail to see it that way.
Speaking of blessing, do you think singleness is a blessing?
Ay!
Yes. For me. For me, yes. Kasi, like what I said earlier, yung pagiging single kasi, that will always be a part of our life no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Diba? Lahat tayo, all of us will go through that phase in our life that we're single. Of course, it's a blessing kasi hindi naman ilalagay ni Lord dyan yan kung walang purpose yan.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Diba?
Do you think life is a blessing, Joe?
Life is a blessing?
Oh, sorry, singleness is a blessing.
I mean, either one. No, I agree, and I would take it a step further. If you actually look at the epistles, if you look at the New Testament, you look at the epistles, and this could be considered controversial by some other people, depending on what denomination you're from. But I don't think you can contest that it's written in that singleness is to an extent a higher calling. Yeah, parang Paul in one of his letters actually says, parang ang pinapalabas niya na, you want to be focused on the kingdom of God. You want to be focused on spreading the gospel. You want to be focused on that. And sabi niya, but, if you can't control yourself, then sure, just get married. It's better to get married than to be sinning in your singlehood. And I think a lot of people tend to forget that that's in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about, God designed Adam and Eve, God designed marriage, and I don't disagree. I think God designed us to have that special kind of relationship with certain people and in certain communities and in certain settings. But we cannot forget that the Bible also has examples of how singlehood and singleness is a blessing. Like if you think about, when Jesus was on earth, he was single for 33 years. Paul was also single. Like the man who wrote a huge chunk of our Bible today was single for most of his life also. Things like that. Now we need to understand, like what Joe was saying, it's not something that God takes for granted and God gives. I think that's one thing now. Going back to my original point of yung perception that I don't like is when churches think of singlehood and singleness as something that needs to be fixed or as a stage that you eventually get over. I think when you do that, you forget that God is intentional about what he does in our lives, and you forget that God sees people where they are. God sees you in your singleness. God sees you in your married life. And there's always a purpose for that. That's a very long-winded answer of saying, yes, I do consider it a blessing.
Yes, I love that. No,
Ikaw ba?
For me, yes, I do consider singleness as a blessing. And, we touched on phases, right? And I think it's so important to, it's really so important to know yourself for you
Yes.
to appreciate na whatever phase I'm in right now, it's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Kasi ako yung tipong tao na I think I'm just naturally optimistic. Right?
That's a good thing.
Which is a good thing. Sometimes it can be a bad thing because it can be tiring.
We've all been
Toxic
there.
positivity.
Toxic positivity. Tama. No, I think I'm naturally optimistic, but at the same time, I'm holding space. We talk about holding space.
Holding space.
Where I'm holding space for like, oh man, sometimes, oh man, like, like that negative feeling of yung perceptions of singleness as a negative thing. However, I do consider personally right now, I consider singleness as a blessing because again, we talked about it, the freedom that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. Like I like that with where I'm at in my life right now. But am I closing and saying I'm closing the doors and saying that no, I'm not open to anything? No, I think it's just when life comes and then it comes. Like it's just how life works,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I don't know if we're ending our episode right now, but you mentioned something from the Bible, and it's funny because every time I go to a wedding, the wedding card that I give to my friends is I usually make my card like handmade card,
Mm-hmm.
and I give them the 1 Corinthians
13.
Mhm.
Yeah. Love
verse.
is patient. Love is kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the first one? Love is patient.
Patient.
And I'm like, what is God telling me about love?
Wag kang attack. Sabi ni Lord, unang-una ka nilagay ko doon, love is patient.
Every time I write that, I'm like, are you trying to be funny? Like,
Every time you write it, you're like, ano ba? Bakit ko ba pinili tong verse na to?
No, it's fun, especially when all your friends are married.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Like-
funny na nakakaiyak. Pero sige.
I found, hindi naman ako nasasaktan, pero minsan ako, wow, God has hugot.
What are you trying to tell me?
I know, love is patient. I'm just like, why am I
Sige
writing
na nga.
this?
For how long, Lord? For how long?
So every time I read that memory verse, I'm just like, it's so different.
Mm-hmm.
It has a different twang to it, just because it's like, when it comes to singleness,
Yes.
right? It's like, oh, love.
Like, as a
is
single
patient.
person reading it.
Yeah, as a single person reading it, it's like, love is patient. Joe is patient. Joe is patient. Andrea is patient.
Joe is maybe patient.
Joe is kind.
Joe is losing her patience.
Joe has no patience.
Ano yung Bible version yan?
Or maybe ran out of patience.
Joe is now the patient.
True. I think so.
Joe is now the patient. No, but I like that you brought that up, Andrea, kasi I don't remember if you remember a couple weeks ago,
Yes.
yung preaching sa church. So, background lang, guys. We all go to the same church. That's kind of how we all met. One of the pastors that was preaching, in his call to action, he used the same verse. And he was saying how when he thinks of that verse and he thinks of being in community and being in a loving relationship, what he does is he replaces the word love with his name.
Mm-hmm.
And then it makes him reflect on, am I all these things?
Mm-hmm.
So I think with his without naming names, parang he says, oh, pastor is patient, pastor is kind,
Yep.
pastor is never jealous, pastor is never proud. Parang hindi din siya sure. And I think it goes back to our point kanina of how in our singleness, or even when you're in your marriage, diba, it's all still about self-improvement and doing the things that you know would be good for you and then good for your partner, whether they're already there or they're coming in the future.
Mhm.
Na- I love it. Now every time I read that verse, I'm gonna think of you writing it and being like, sige na nga, patient.
Love is
No.
patient. Andrea is patient. Okay.
Patient, Lord,
I have a
probos
question
na.
for you guys. I have
Okay,
a
go,
question.
go,
Ah,
go,
yan, yan,
Andrea.
yan. Go, Joe.
Okay, has it ever occurred to you na to ask yourself, like,
Yes.
maybe,
Am I the problem?
no. Am I single because I'm not ready for a relationship?
Oof.
Ay!
Saan naman yun?
Ano bang next episode na yan? Bakit may pa-call out?
No, like,
You know what? I feel like
it?
other people, there's a lot of couples who get into a relationship who are not ready,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And you're looking at them, it's
No,
like,
like, especially when you're single for a long time. Like, is it because I'm not ready to be in a relationship? That's why I'm still single?
personally for me kasi, medyo may pagka-ermitanyo ko. Kaya, hindi, ang question sa akin, it's not that I'm not ready, it's more of like, it's not something that I worked on. Like, whoa, we get vulnerable now. Like, no, it's not something that I really worked on, like, all throughout my life. I think it's mainly because, I don't know, it's just, I had other priorities. I don't think I'm not ready for a relationship. It's more of, I'm not really working towards it. It's not like I'm going out and about, like, hey guys, I'm putting myself out there, and like if you think about it, the people who I guess get into relationships are the one who put themselves out there.
That's true.
But I don't, and that's why I'm here.
And that's why we're literally in here. We're not out there.
I think for me, they're not ready for me.
Confidence.
No, Ate, I think you have standards. That's what you said a couple times throughout this episode.
Yes.
You have standards, and standards may mean having to say no a lot. Standards may mean having to be single for longer than the normal person.
To protect your peace.
Protect your peace.
Yeah,
Yes.
but really, you know what? It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Because as long as you're happy, whether you're single or not, what matters is your own happiness.
Yes. Yes. Ikaw, Joe.
Ano ako?
Nandito
ako.
Answer my question. Yung question ni
Isagot
Ate
yung
Jo.
tanong.
Oo.
Are you single because you think you're not ready for a relationship? Asan yung tissue?
Here we go.
Ayun. No, I think, if I were being honest, I would say yes. Because I've always been somebody who's very introspective and very reflective, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes to my detriment, na overthinking. Ganun. So I see all of the issues that I have. Like we were talking about yung Andrea, yung ano ni Andrea na, yung cup illustration, right?
Yes.
Like, I know where all the cracks are. I know where all the leaks are. So I'm very, very aware na basag na yung baso. No, I need a new baso. Like, I'm very aware of where all those things are. And so I think I am a lot harsher on myself. And so when I think of, parang it's not fair for anybody to be carrying half the stuff that I'm carrying. So, for me, I'm like, let's just keep working on these things. If I get to work on them in the next, 10, 15 years and God provides a partner, then, sure, hopefully by then I'll be in a better spot. But I think right now there's that feeling of I'm not quite there where I am ready to let somebody else into the mess because it feels like still very, very messy. And that's just not, my mental state or emotional state. Hindi naman ako nakatakas sa mental hospital. Like,
Are you sure?
teka lang yung, kayong ganyan. Baka mahuli tayo. No, but like, I think that, and then there's also a couple other things where I think, in terms of my career, in terms of my finances, there's a goal that I want to hit. And to an extent, it feels like caring for somebody else would make achieving those goals a bit more difficult. Not that they're impossible to achieve if you have somebody else, but it's just a bit more difficult. And I think I just don't have the capacity right now to work on myself, to work on my career, to work on my finances, to have all these different things settled. And then while doing all of that, to be caring for somebody else, I'm not quite there yet. Buti na lang 18 lang ako.
What year?
I am 18 with, a couple years of experience. But I think that's the other thing, where it's like, we've always lived believing na we're rushing, chasing after something.
Yes.
But after a while, you know what? You learn to
Slow down.
not even think about it. Like, for me at this point in my life, I could definitely say, if it comes or not, I'm fine.
Mm.
Whether somebody comes or not, somebody comes back or not.
Uy, may comes back! Pakinggan niyo. Ang dami naming, hindi sila jato, guys, pero sa totoo lang, pakinggan niyo yung episode on Second Chances. You'll understand yung mga hugot ni Joe.
No, but really,
Uh-uh.
for me, I'm fine whichever way.
Yeah.
You have to be satisfied at some point in your life.
Kasi you can't keep longing for things that you don't have. That's not a good way to live.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to also acknowledge that's such a huge sign of maturity. Now you're like, okay, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And
I'm not gonna chase after
if
it.
you're not gonna chase after it. And the thing is, like, why do we always feel like we're in a freaking marathon? Like a rat race. Oh, I need to be like, like life is not a linear thing that, okay, all these like life stages we need to meet at XYZ amount of time, right? And for what?
Yeah.
Right?
Totoo.
Why can't life be more like meandering in a garden?
Mm-hmm.
Galavanting.
Galapanting. Diba? You go to a garden, you're like, oh, look at this, look at the bees, look at the flowers. Like you're just enjoying what you're seeing for what it is. Whereas a race is like, you're going through it, and then, I'm sorry, but like I have a couple friends who are like runners. And I'm sure if
Shut up, Jan.
I feel it's a great feat and goal to do. Also, you've seen videos of runners na they're just like after a race they're just vomiting and just not in a good place.
Yeah.
I don't want life. If we see life as a race and that is what
The ending looks like.
the outcome is, I don't want that kind of life.
Never mind. I'll stay in the couch.
Totoo.
Diba?
And I think with the fact that we're living in the 21st century,
Yes.
with access to technology, to podcasts, to videos, to books, to Reddit posts, we get to see now. I feel like, personally, it feels like I now have access to so many more people's lived experiences
Mhm.
that it doesn't, that to an extent, it's making me actually calmer about life. Because then I feel like, okay, there's this person that's done this. Pero hindi na naman siya masaya. There's this person that absolutely has not done all the things that I thought you should be doing by whatever age. Pero parang ang saya niya. And then you hear of all these other people who are doing X, Y, and Z and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And you're like, you know what? There is no one path.
Yeah.
It is not a marathon. Like if you think of, I think when I think of actual marathons, you don't just run a marathon just with yourself, right? Like a marathon is set.
Mm-hmm.
There's a start, there's a finish line, there's all these different things.
Yeah.
And I think we tend to say, oh, life is a marathon, it's not a sprint, right? Because you go at different paces, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes I feel like life's not even a marathon. Because I'm like, you see all these different people, they do their own detours. They choose their own path. They do their own like side quests. And I'm like, walang path. Walang path, walang race. Sino bang hinahabol ko?
Yun nga eh.
Kaya late ako kaninang umaga eh. Kasi
What?
wala akong hinahabol. Honest lang ako. Bago niyo ako tirahin ng late ako kanina, ako na magsasabi.
So funny.
No, but like, diba? I think, going back to your point, what am I chasing after?
Yeah.
I get to define my own goals. And if my goal right now is to take a pause, if my goal right now is to care for myself, if my goal right now is to honor the fact that maybe I'm tired, maybe I need to sleep more,
Maybe I'm single.
maybe I'm single, maybe, hindi ka sure? Do you want to talk about that?
In our next episode.
In our next episode, The Who, ang dinidate ni Andrea. No, like, it's recognizing that I get to set my own goals and I get to choose my own path, and there's no because I'm choosing it and I'm creating it, wala akong ibang hinahabol kasi nobody else has done it.
That's what's great and scary about adulting. Because I know this is about singleness, but like just to add to what you said, like, kasi when we were children, we're all put into like institutionalized learning. We're all seeing the same people every day. So parang lahat tayo clean slate. And then we all graduated from that. And then we're all just doing our thing. So it's like, what now? Right? So it's kind of scary for people who are so used to routines, who are so used to, like a very goal driven, and there's nothing wrong with goals, right? Like the very like stage driven way of living, and then you get to adulthood and it's like clean slate already. You don't know where you're going, and that's the scary part. I feel like that should be in our next episode, the squiggly life
Of adulting.
of adulting.
I like it.
Yeah. Narinig ko yun. I think narinig ko yun sa I was feeling lost. I still feel lost. I was feeling lost about like just life in general, and then I heard that term squiggly life. It's like, oh, I really like that, but that could be on a different episode.
Squiggly.
Squiggly, wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle then, pag may time.
Oh.
Well, that's so true. I think it's the... Basta yun.
Basta yun na yun.
Ang dami nating napag-usapan.
Oo.
Right now.
I-add mo pa yung mga reunion chauviness ng mga tito at tita, di ba? Parang, bakit single ka pa rin?
Tama.
Or tapos pag may asawa ka naman na, ay pag may boyfriend, girlfriend ka na, okay lang kayo kakasal.
Yeah.
Pagkasal ka na, ay kayo rin yung anak nyo.
Tama.
Kung may panganay ka na, okay lang yung
It's
susunod.
annoying, isn't it? It's annoying.
Yeah.
Parang bakit ba? Let me be me.
Yes, let me live my life. And I like what you're saying. What you said, Andrea, na, sometimes I feel lost. And I think it's true. And I think there's a beauty in wandering. And I think there's a beauty and a reality of being able to hold both of those. Now, sometimes you do feel lost. And sometimes you welcome it because you actually want to wander. Sometimes it is scary because you're like, holy stars, where am I going? What is happening? And they're both part of the becoming, of the growing.
I think also like what's scary about feeling lost is kasi like feeling lost it connotates like a negative thing, right? Like it's a sign of weakness, you're lacking something. But in truth, it's like for me where I'm at right now, feeling lost just is a signal. It's a signal na maybe hindi align yung values ko to where I'm at in my life right now. Hindi align yung career or whatever, personal aspirations ko with where I'm at in my life. So the challenge is, what are you gonna do about that? I can choose to be like, yeah, you know what, I'll settle with where I'm feeling because it feels familiar. Or like, F all of this.
Bye.
Let's do something about it. Even if it means having to lose my former self or my present self. And like just give it a try or whatever that is. Right? Ano ba to? Singleness ba to or what?
Life.
It could still be part of the singleness, you know?
Yeah.
Kasi some people, when they're single, they would think like, oh, I need somebody to share this with me because I feel so lost.
Yeah.
Like, I need someone to direct me where I'm going the next time. Diba? Parang, pero why? You should be able to figure that out on your own before you have somebody else with you. Diba?
Yeah.
Single tayo lahat eh.
what's our closing statements, or like how do we feel about this topic? Are we inspired? Are we more introspective? Are we like any thoughts?
Joe.
What do I feel? Tama na, pagod na. Tapusin na natin to. No, I think what I liked about our discussions is that we've touched on the fact that singlehood is not one thing. Singlehood is not just a phase. It's not just the in-between of, not having a partner yet. And I think our discussions kind of capture that. Kasi it's a recognition that living as a single person, whether it's permanently or for a season, you're living life. Like that doesn't define who you are permanently, or it's not the only thing that you are. And I think that's why our conversations have gone to, we've talked about religion, we talked about our faith, we've talked about our families, we talked about careers, we've talked about how to feel about living life and doing life. Because I think that's the reality of where we are right now, where we see singlehood as part of our current realities, and we're honoring it as part of our current realities. That's why it's difficult for us to just separate it and say, oh, we're just going to talk about singlehood. We're not going to talk about career. We're not going to talk about finances. We're not going to talk about our faith. We're not going to talk about friendships. And we can't do that because I think we've actually, and I think it's a blessing that we've gone to a point where we recognize it as a part of our life.
Yes.
And we're honoring its presence, and we're holding space for it. And like what you said, Joe, if it comes, it comes. If this goes away, it goes away. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that's where we are.
Rope 2.0. Thanks for pointing out that we can't talk about singleness without talking about our entire identity, right? Like, because singleness is not our identity. It's just part of who we are. It's not. It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It just is, right?
Yeah.
It just is. For me, what have I picked up from this? I think what I picked up is I need to look at singleness in a subjective way, right? Like, it's good that we open up our conversations with like perceptions that we don't like versus perceptions that we like, and then I've learned that. Oh yeah, those two things can coexist in the same space.
Yeah, they don't negate each other.
They don't negate each other, and I appreciate that from our conversation today. Ate Joe, what are your closing statements?
Well, single pa rin tayo after this.
Wala.
Sa dami na pagdadaldalan namin, single pa rin kami.
No, but
Kung may gusto mag-apply dyan.
we're accepting applicants. Na yung pagiging single, well, bakit ba? Well, for me, kasi being single doesn't mean something's wrong with you or you're not likable or whatever. As, other people may perceive or imply or whichever. But for you, for your own self, being single, you have to enjoy that moment in your life. Because you might not get that back. Or, it's still like time, Once it's done, it's done. So while you're at it, you enjoy it. You work on yourself. You keep doing what you love to do. Keep yourself happy.
Yes.
Because this is the best time to actually know who you really are. And you just enjoy the moment. Enjoy life while you're single. Because once you get married or once you're in a relationship, everything else will be different. Even your perception of a relationship will be different. So all those little things will be different. So for now, just enjoy being single.
Naku, parang, can we make a promise that pag lahat tayo lahat tayo in a relationship, we go back to this episode and do like, hey,
we record one more with our partners.
Exactly. Wala lang. It's like a little time capsule,
Yeah.
That's true. Good reminder also when we forget.
Exactly.
Because loneliness do come. It does come. Loneliness
it
does come. Pag English, loneliness does come. Because the reality is, every now and then, we're met with the realization that we are alone. At least in certain areas or in certain times. And so, we're hoping, not just for ourselves, but also for all of you people out there listening, the past hour that you've spent with us, the past hour that we've spent with each other, can be something that we can all look back on and be like, oh, I know there are good things about being single. Or that, sure, I am lonely right now, like specifically in this moment, in this hour, in this minute, whatever. But it's not where I get to stay, or it's not where I choose to stay. And I get to look at, I get to recognize what I'm feeling, and then also recognize there are things I can do about it.
Remember, life is not a race.
Sabi nga ng Bini, di ba? Buhay ay di ka rin.
Akala ko mo salamin. Carrera pala. That's a really good song. I guess yun ang song recommendation namin today. Carrera by Beanie.
Oh, sige.
Ano yung
Kantahin mo yung
Carrera
clip.
Pakinggan natin mamaya. Huwag tayong kumanta dito ngayon. Baka
Kantahin mo
copyright
yung
tayo.
konti. Yung
Hindi ko maalala yung melody. Ang nasa isip ko ngayon talaga yung salamin. Pero yun, buhay ay di karera. It's not a race.
Love it.
And so with that,
Thank you guys for joining us this week.
we want to thank Andrea again for joining us. Hopefully this is the first
Thank
and
you,
not the last.
Thanks for having me.
And if
Such
you
a
have...
pleasure.
Absolutely, for us too. And for all the listeners out there, if you have questions, comments, suggestions, violent reactions, you know where to find us on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And all our contact information will be there. Please reach out. We want to hear about your journey, whether it's singlehood or marriage or in between or part 2 or take 2. Let us know. And with that, we want to thank you, and we'll see you
Next week.
next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.